when we look at Khartoum's machinations over the years and their activities in South Sudan, I think that they have a long history of meddling within the factions there. And so now you have Bashir making a recent visit to Juba. And I was wondering if we have any indication that he might have made any guarantees to President Kiir. At the same time, Bashar had that history prior to the establishment of South Sudan of switching sides, of joining the regime, of working with Bashir. And I wondered if you have any indication that he's reached out to Bashir for any form of assistance. It wouldn't surprise me if both, if you know, Bashir and those in the North who have a long history of oppression down there and connections with both sides in these factions, that they might be strengthening their hands in their interaction with the South. But I don't have, other than the trip there, I don't have any information. Has the State Department conveyed any messages to the head of state in Sudan about meddling there? I just wondered what you could tell us.
Thank you for that question. We are aware of Bashir's trip to South Sudan. He initially traveled in with the IGAD heads of state as a member of IGAD, but he went in separately. We initially heard rumors that he would be providing security for the oil fields around the border. They later announced that they had agreed to provide technical assistance, but I think all of that remains to be seen. It is something that we are concerned about, and we are watching very closely as well. We have not had any direct conversations with President Bashir, as you know, but we have conveyed across the region that we do not see this as being resolved militarily, and we have encouraged countries to be very circumspect about any assistance to the warring parties.
Let me ask you this question. I brought up the issue of the UN attempting to exert some leverage on that government in South Sudan with respect to bringing sanctions in play. Now we have a new report. I was going to ask you if it's accurate and if the administration is considering sanction there, and specifically whether you try to sanction individuals in the government. Would they be targeted if they were complicit in this implosion?
Sir, we are looking at a variety of options to hold accountable those individuals who are responsible for the atrocities and violations of human rights, and particularly we're looking at those individuals who are blocking efforts who are spoiling our efforts to achieve peace. They are on both sides, both within the government as well as those anti-government forces.
And one of the other observations that I made in my opening statement was that in many ways the writing was on the wall here. You had an enormous amount of, shall we say, authority being consolidated in the presidency. At the same time, you had a corruption that was evident, and this was a concern, the magnitude of it by the UN report. And the authoritarian rule was moving forward step by step. First, the local governors were pushed out by the president. Then in March, behind closed doors, when he was approached by the vice president for his increasingly strong-armed, tactics, the vice president was dismissed. Bashar was tossed, but so was the entire cabinet. The entire cabinet. So throughout the year, when these episodes occurred, and almost monthly we were reading something about the difficulties at hand, What was the engagement from the administration? Did someone go from Washington to Juba to say enough, or to engage, or what was going on?
Well, first and foremost, our ambassador was actively engaged and
I understand
both
that.
issued public and private statements concerning the situation. We also had meetings here in the U.S. on the margins of the UN with President Kiir. I can't answer whether anyone traveled. I can check on that and get back to you.
I think it's very important, because I think we perhaps had an opportunity to bridge that internal divide. But that probably was not going to happen without a tremendous amount of international pressure, either at the UN, where they tried to leverage, their force with the threat of sanctions there to stop the corruption, stop the authoritarian rule, or with direct engagement from the highest levels here in the United States, where we laid out the consequences should this road of just destroying any viable opposition and tossing out cabinet members and taking away all the governorships. I mean, it would seem to me that it would be pretty clear that in an environment like that, without our direct engagement in terms of sending high-ranking officials there to sort of spell out the consequences.
I'm being passed a couple of notes that indicate that both Gail Smith and General Rodriguez travel out to the region. But I do know that there were high-level meetings with Salva Kiir in New York on the margins of the UN.
Let me ask you also, we had I appreciate that information. Our embassy in Juba, I guess, is the old USAID compound. Doesn't meet safety standards. In a briefing for the committee, Undersecretary Kennedy described the physical security there as pathetic. This latest evacuation, I think, underscores the importance of the committee's work to have enacted the Department of State Operations and Embassy Security Authorization Act, which we passed in a bipartisan way overwhelmingly into the Senate. We're trying to get that into law. The drawdown of the embassy was reinforced, and I think that was the first use of new military units created in the wake of Benghazi. These units are the Djibouti-based East Africa Response Force and the Spain-based Marine Task Force. What are the lessons learned from the first deployments of these units, and will we use them differently in the future? And the FAST Team Marines based in Rota, Spain, are also designed to respond to these types of contingencies. I don't think they were deployed in this case. I was going to ask about that. And let me just ask you about that aspect of security.
Good. Thank you. As you no doubt know, the security of our people in Sudan and everywhere where we have embassies in the world is our highest priority. So that was the very first thing that we looked at. We did an initial drawdown of our staff, and now we're down to minimal staff being supported by a very large security team. We have 45 from the East Africa Response Force who are there. In addition, we have 9 diplomatic security officers and 7 Marines who are there with a very, very small staff headed by the ambassador there. We're looking at the situation and monitoring the situation almost on an hourly basis. We come together several times a day to review security in and around Juba. And at any point when we determine that we can no longer keep our people safe, we'll have to make the difficult decision of bringing down our flag and bringing our people home. It is important, we believe, to continue to maintain a diplomatic presence. We think there is a key role for our ambassador to play in terms of political engagement with the parties there. but also to be there to encourage the Sudanese who are going through this difficult time. So our flag going down will send a very, very strong signal. But again, we know that the safety of our staff is our most important priority.
Thank you, Ambassador. Mr. Series.